Yes, hello everybody and welcome to a very special edition of In Pit Lane, the first episode of In Pit Lane in the reign of His Glorious Majesty, King Charles III. Joining me tonight, unfortunately my co-host Doc is not with us tonight. He's spent most of the weekend watching the coronation and has therefore lost the will to live. But nonetheless, he will be with us again hopefully next week. Sitting alongside me tonight is Michael Stratus from Motorsport Australia. Why is he here? Why, wouldn't you like to know? Well, we'll tell you in a moment, but he's going to talk about this weekend's Speed Series down at Phillip Island. We'll find out more about that in the news and a little bit, some more stuff a little bit later on. Also, stay tuned in the second half of the program. On the third segment, we'll have all the international news as well, including Super GT and fisticuffs in NASCAR. But right now, by royal decree, it is time for me to say, in time-honoured tradition, this is the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Well, new cars, new drivers, that's what's on offer at Phillip Island for the second round of the Speed Series. The TCR field will see the welcome inclusion of two new cars, with the Australian debut of the Lincoln Co car to be driven by former British Touring Car Championship race winner Tom Oliphant. And also coming along, Lincoln Co is a global automotive brand formed as a joint venture between the Chinese-owned Geely Auto Group and the Volvo Car Group, and has been one of the most successful in international TCR competition. The car will be run in Australia by Ashley Saywood Motorsport. Also new to the field will be the Cupra for local driver Michael Clemente. Michael's entry featuring the support of international DJ star Carl Cox. Michael Clemente will be our guest next week on In Pit Lane to talk about his weekend and the debut of the new car. Well, one of the largest fields for this weekend will be the New Look Australian Production Car Championship. The field, now bolstered by the addition of GT4 cars, has an entry list of 31 cars, making it comfortably the largest field this weekend. The GT4 series will see 7 drivers in its first competition outing at the circuit, including entries for Shane Smolin and Tony Quinn, both in Porsche Caymans. The meeting will also feature S5000, Trans Ams, the GT World Challenge Australia and V8 touring cars. And we'll preview the event in more detail now with our special guest. He is the Media, Digital and Content Editor at Motorsport Australia. He is Michael Stratus. Michael, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Thank you. And just like King Charles getting coronated, I got a recent promotion as well at work, so no longer the Media, Digital and Content Editor. You've
finally unseated Eugene.
Not quite yet. I'm not sure I could handle that job, but he's very good. But yeah, no, it's Motorsport's very busy at the moment, and obviously I'm now Senior Communications and Content Editor, so just thought I'd promote myself.
Does that mean we've got to pay you more tonight?
It does, but you've given me one slice of pizza already, so I'll take a second one after the show if that's all right with you.
That's all right. I think the budget can range. We'll have to see what we can do about that. Now, coming up the Speed Series this week. First of all, for people who aren't aware of it, people who they're only casual viewers of motorsport, they perhaps know about supercars and of course Formula One. What is the Speed Series? Why is the Speed Series?
Well, the Speed Series is a collective of national categories around the country, like TCR, S5000, and there's plenty of a variety of different categories that can appeal to all fans of all ages. And we just go to all different tracks around the country. It's just basically another opportunity for people to see motorsport and enjoy it.
So how do the different categories get chosen? I mean, as we see, obviously things like TCR. I mean, the Australian Races Group are responsible for all that. So how much of this is sort of run by the Australian Races Group? How much of this is Motorsport Australia? Who actually runs the Speed Series?
Well, we actually get a hat and we pick a category out of that, and that's who we select for each round.
I wondered about that.
Yes, it's quite a intense process. No, but in all seriousness, I think the ARG have quite a few categories that they run, and we work alongside them to put each event on. This is actually the third round this weekend at Phillip Island. There was Race Tasmania earlier in the year at Symonds Plains, and then obviously the Bathurst 6 Hour, which was over the Easter long weekend. So there's quite a few events this year. This will be the third of 7, and we travel all different around the country. As for who chooses the categories, that's above my pay grade. I'm not there yet. So, but there's obviously a process where we get different categories. The ARG obviously gets a lot of them, and we've actually also Motorsport Australia's also introduced the Trophy Series, which is a bit of another series of categories that will be joining up, that like the prototype series, radicals, and we'll be going to places such as the Bend Motorsport Park and Sydney Motorsport Park.
So is that a problem at the moment? We seem to have just so many categories and everybody wants their own little slice of the pie. And we get, you know, it's like we've got the trophy series coming up. We saw the prototypes. We were down for the prototypes only about a week ago at Phillip Island, putting on there. I mean, are we at the moment that we're now getting just so many categories we simply can't keep up? We've got to put on more and more and more different levels of motorsport. We've got, you know, of course at the top level, if you know, the supercars and everything that runs with them, and then you've got the speed series sort of under that, and then you've got a state series as well, and then there's a whole bunch of, you know, the trophy series as well. How many series are we going to have in the end?
Well, if you could ask the real car enthusiasts, they'd probably ask for about 10 series, you know, motorsport every weekend. And obviously, thanks to the Motorsport Australia officials, we're allowed to do motorsport.
Because that's why I'm sort of thinking, because, you know, like certainly down at Phillip Island a couple of weeks ago, that was the thing that all the flaggies and all of the officials were sort of saying, is they're just saying, wow, this is great, but we are really struggling now. Is this a problem?
I don't think so. I mean, everyone loves motorsport and they love the opportunities, and I think it's just the way the sport's adapting at the moment. There's plenty of motorsport around, and we want to keep growing, and to grow the sport, we want to keep putting on more events. So officials just keep coming, and yeah, I think there's no problems there.
So how important is it that we get more, just before we take a break, how important is it that we get more officials? And if people are out there watching and thinking, gee, how do I get involved in this? How do people get involved?
It's a simple process. Just go to Motorsport Australia's website, motorsport.org.au, and simply sign up. Look, officials are the lifeblood of the sport, and as much as drivers get all the attention, without officials there is no motorsport, and you know, they're such a key part of our sport. So yeah, we love them. They're such great people. They're all really enthusiastic about the sport. So yeah, and anyone who wants to join, just go motorsport.org.au and follow the prompts. Okay,
we'll come back in just after the break and we'll talk more about what we're going to see down at Phillip Island this week. Stay with us, and when we come back after the break, Michael will be giving us more information coming up on the Speed Series. Also, live music coming up as well. Don't go away. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be right back.
Get the phone ringing for your business with website development and SEO services from Online Invent. Visit onlineinvent.com.au.
Yes, and of course we would like to thank our sponsor Online Invent for their continued support of In Pit Lane and community media. Online Invent's a web marketing, SEO and web design company based here in Melbourne. So you're dealing with local people and also people who have an understanding and a passion for motorsport. I mean, Online Invent have certainly played a huge part in our increased social media and online status. And let's face it, if they can do it for us, then they can do it for you. They're also the creators of the Motorsport Archives YouTube channel, which features classic motorsport content, so you should check it out. Now, if you're looking for a company to help you with your web marketing, SEO, or web and software designs, make sure to check out our friends at Online Invent. Don't battle with this stuff by yourself. I mean, a bad online presence can be toxic for your brand. Online Invent have a team of experienced professionals who can help you achieve your online goals. So thank you once again to Online Invent for their support of In Pit Lane, RMI TV and community television. We couldn't do it without you. Well, coming up for those of you watching on YouTube and also on the In Pit Lane Facebook page, our singer tonight, well, we feature on the program sort of, you know, young up-and-coming Melbourne talent, but we've got young up-and-coming Tasmanian talent. Yes, coming all the way from Tasmania is Simon Astley. And if you want to catch up with him, he's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, he's on Spotify, he's all of the digital platforms. So that's Simon Astley, and he's going to play us out a little bit later on the show, but right now as a bonus for all of you there, he's going to play Summer Now. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Astley.
I guess my love life is stuck on sideways. What the hell am I supposed to do? My favorite cup you still have in the cupboard. All I'm gonna do. I'm sick and tired of lonely. Is there something that we can do? There were times when we were happy, 1,000 times and 1,000,000 more. And I know, It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, let me take you home. Yeah. It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, let me take you home. Yeah. There's a certain code of conduct you feel you have to live up to. It's your life and it is your life. There's so much that you wanna do. I'm sick and tired of lonely. Is there something that we can do? And there were times when we were happy, 1,000 times and 1,000,000 more. And I know, yeah. It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, let me take you home. Yeah. It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, it's summer now. It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, let me take you home. Yeah. It's summer now, let me take you home. It's summer now, it's summer now. It's summer now, it's summer now. It's summer now, yeah.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, our guest tonight is Michael Stratus from Motorsport Australia and the Speed Series, and we were talking about, the Speed Series happening this weekend at Phillip Island. We mentioned in the news the category TCR, and as we mentioned, a couple of new cars coming in as well. Also, we're seeing the return of Ben Bargwanna, and I said from international competition, the World Tour for TCR, which he took part in at Portimao. How important do you think that could be for the development of TCR racing, both in Australia and also regionally in the Asia-Pacific region?
Well, I think having a competition like TCR, it's something to work towards. There's obviously F1, and that's where people obviously strive to get to in open wheel racing, and the Super Cup in Porsches and all that. But having a category like TCR, the World Tour, is fantastic for a lot of the competitors in Australia. It's something to work towards. If you want to race around the world or internationally, you can go. There's something to work towards now. And seeing Ben go over there and do such a fantastic job and grab a rookie win in the TCR Europe was just fantastic. And he's a great ambassador for our sport and especially the series itself.
Now, of course, we mentioned the World Tour. We've got not one but two rounds. One, of course, at Bathurst. The other, only the week before at Sydney Motorsport Park. Is that a bit of a worry that you've got two? I can understand from a logistical standpoint why they're doing it, but in terms of sort of attracting crowds, is that going to be a problem? I mean, that you've got two meetings on just basically in the same state, in the same market, a week apart?
Absolutely not. I mean, if Formula One can do 3 rounds in a row, why can't?
But they're doing them in different countries.
Well, I mean, Supercars did 4 Sydney Motorsport Park rounds. Look, it's sequels are sometimes better than the first, and who knows? 2 rounds back to back, one at Sydney Motorsport Park, one at Bathurst. There's no problem with that, I don't think, because they're different areas as well. And obviously, Sydney being first, it's a great track, and then moving across to the great Mount Panorama. Why wouldn't you go and see twice?
And then I believe very soon after, the final round is actually on the streets of Macau.
Yes, yeah, that is correct. Yeah, so there's plenty to go around.
Also coming up this weekend, we mentioned the Australian production car series, the GT4. It's always, I've said this many times on the program, the GT4, it's really had me bewildered as to why this hasn't really taken off a lot more in Australia. And it looks like finally it's starting to get some traction, but surprisingly as part of the production car series. But this is a really good field coming up this weekend.
Yeah, it's a massive field, isn't it? I think there was 31 off the top of my head or something.
Yeah, 31
like that.
as of yesterday.
And a good mix of both production cars and GT4 cars. So it's fantastic to see, both categories doing really, really well.
And the GT4 cars, we mentioned the Porsche Caymans, but we've also got Ginettas, there's Mercedes, there's Aston Martins, there's all sorts of, there's a lot of GT4 cars available. And if you have a look at some of the GT4 racing overseas, there has been some sensational stuff overseas happening. The French series is insane.
Well, hopefully our series can be just as good as that. There's no reason why it can't. There's a lot of talent in the fields and Australian production cars and the GT, so there's, I'm sure it'll grow over the coming years.
Undoubtedly the fastest cars of the weekend will be the S5000s. We were all so excited when S5000 started. I mean, finally the return of big engined, really fast open wheelers in Australia. At this stage, I mean, COVID obviously was a big hit towards it, but it still hasn't sort of, got that traction. It hasn't got that, that momentum that we really hoped that it would have. What is the future of S5000? I
think there's a big one. I remember I was actually there at Sydney Motorsport Park back in 2019, I think it was, when they first revealed TCR and S5000. And there was actually a really big interest in S5000s, and everyone who was in the cars, they're very fast cars. And I think people, once they grow to understand how good these cars are and the scope of how much it can grow, I think it'll get more people involved in them. And with the new push-to-pass function that will be sort of introduced this weekend in Phillip Island, there's a lot to be excited about the S5000, and I'm sure they'll grow over the next few years. We've
also got the GT Championship as well. So once again, talking about sort of those so Halo cars, we've got a good field in that as well. We're missing a couple of cars because of a clash with the Asian GT World Challenge Asia. So the 888 cars aren't there. Despite of that, it's still a really good field for them as well.
And that's just going back to what I said before. The Speed Series is really growing in stature at the moment, and having like the entry list that the GTs have now, it's fantastic. And there's some real talented drivers in there.
So we're also seeing the return of, we mentioned Ben Bargwanna, but his cousin is coming down to also make sort of his V8 touring car debut. Now, for people who don't know, if you're a fan of supercars, the V8 touring cars are essentially the old supercars. So what will we see in V8 touring cars? What's the eligibility?
Well, it's basically the old supercars, and what's great about the series is it's actually a breeding ground for some really great talent. Brock Feeney came from there, and he actually won it back in 2019. So it's a great category just to sort of, for young drivers wanting to, go up the supercars pathway. It's actually a really good stepping stone, and there's basically just all the old cars that they used to run around in the V8s.
And the good thing about it is that a lot of them are in the original livery as well. There's a lot of guys who just like they don't have any other sponsors, so they just leave them the way they used to be, and you'll see all of those. And the good thing is they're not replicas. I mean, this is the real thing. So when you see some of those cars, that's the car that you watched at Bathurst back in 2007 or something.
And that's the beauty of the Speed Series. We've got categories of all kinds, and you see from the GTs to the S5000s to the old touring cars that were so popular. So. Yeah, and that's what's great about our series.
So if people are interested in sort of watching it, that's one of the things in terms of how do we get sort of crowds to these things? Because as you mentioned, it is a really good value for money sort of attraction, and yet you have a look around and the crowds are not big. And this is not just here, this is all around the world. I was watching the TCR World Tour, and there was virtually no one there. So where are the crowds gone? How do we get them back?
We've always joked about this. I think motorsport's a very good televised sport. I think the coverage that people get by watching on Stan Sport or watching via streams or something like that, like it's really good coverage watching online. But I think there's nothing better than going to a racetrack and watching the cars go by action. I'm not sure. I mean, again above my pay grade. But look, it's motorsport is growing, and I think maybe once people can start getting more access to the circuits, and I think they'll grow. Sandown always attracts a lot of people when we go to Sandown. Maybe it's just people, the circuits are a bit far out and they can't
Yes,
get there.
it is a long drive for a lot of people down to Phillip Island, and if you want to stay, it's bloody expensive.
But we'll be seeing you there, which will be good.
You will be seeing me, perhaps. I'm pretty sure you will be, and we'll have more of that next week on the program. Now, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap things up with Michael Stratus. Also, Simon Astley is going to join us to play us out with some music. You're watching In Pit Lane here on Channel 31. Don't go away. We shall be right back. I'm hearing things, but soft. Doth thou hear the sound of engines rolling? The smell of burning rubber doth fill at the very air itself. Drivers are ready. Thy cars are expectantly poised to start another race. One and all, it is time for rejoicing. It is time for the return of Full Course Yellow. Yes, coming to you weekly live discourse of all things motorsport, bringing you the latest news, best analysis, and the most entertaining of dialogue. Thou shalt join us live on the Book of Faces and the Sacred Tube of You every week on the Wednesday as the clock chimes 8:30 p.m. We celebrate the glorious return of Full Course Yellow and give our thanks to our most gracious King, Charles III. God save the King, and God save Full Course Yellow. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, our special guest is Mike Stratus from Motorsport Australia and the Speed Series. And Michael, if people want to go down to Phillip Island on the weekend, I take it that they can buy tickets at the gate. What's the best way they can get tickets and see all the action?
Well, the best tickets is via motorsporttickets.com.au, where you can buy tickets, $30 per day or $55 for the weekend. Great value. There's plenty of entertainment there. Off track and on track, so come
and
on
the
down.
weather looks like it's going to improve a little bit. I had a look at the forecast and it's nowhere near as I think it's actually going to be about 19 or 20 degrees, so that's not, for Phillip Island, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, we made a special request to the King and he's made that happen.
He's already doing performing above and beyond his duties. Yes, so anyway, if people want to find out more about the Speed Series in general, I take it there is a website?
Absolutely, Brett. There's speedseries.com.au, and for those that actually who can't make it to Phillip Island, as we were discussing before, you can obviously watch the Stan Sport coverage, or for international viewers, for the King himself, he can tune in via the international broadcast, international stream on their website, speedseries.com.au.
Yes, yes, there's a number of ways that you can see all the action coming up on the program. Now, thank you, Michael Stratus from Motorsport Australia. Thanks for coming in, and good luck with the Speed Series. And remember, next week on the program as well, we will have Michael Clementi from TCR Australia as well. But for now, Michael Stratus, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Now, it has been a big weekend of international motorsport. Let's find out what's been happening around around the world with the In Pit Lane International Wrap. The Fuji GT 450km race, round 2 of the 2023 Japanese Super GT Series, took place last Thursday at the Fuji Speedway. In the GT 500 class, Sho Sube and Ritomo Miyata, who were racing the Tom's GR Supra, managed to come from 6th position on the grid to take the lead in the middle stages of the race. They held on to their lead and ran on to victory, winning the race from the Honda NSX of Naoki Yamamoto and Tatsuki Makino. Another NSX was third with Kudai Takaskoshi and Nobuharu Matsushita. In the GT300 class, Nissan drivers João Paulo de Oliveira and Tepi Notori started from pole and led most of the race to claim the win. In NASCAR, Denny Hamlin won a thrilling race at the Kansas Motor Speedway on Sunday, passing Kyle Larson on the final lap to claim his first win of the season. Hamlin and Larson were locked in a battle for the lead for the entire race, and it came down to the wire on the last lap. Hamlin making a daring pass on Larson coming out of turn 4, and he held on to win by just a few inches. It wasn't just a huge victory for Hamlin, who had not won a race since last year's Coca-Cola 600, but also a big win for Joe Gibbs Racing, who struggled this season. The race was marred by a post-race altercation between Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson. Chastain and Gregson got into a heated argument after the pair had come together earlier in the race. The incident was quickly broken up by NASCAR officials, but not before Chastain got in a quick but ineffective straight right. So far, NASCAR have taken no action, a bit strange after suspending Bubba Wallace for a much more sedate incident late last year. And another win for Red Bull and Max Verstappen with another masterclass drive at the Miami Grand Prix. Verstappen started from 9th on the hard tyres and came through the field to take the lead from teammate and main championship rival Sergio Perez late in the race. It was another third place for the Aston Martin of the consistent Fernando Alonso, who continues to frustrate both the Ferrari and Mercedes teams with his good form. Mercedes' George Russell finished 4th ahead of Ferrari's Carlos Sainz, who was penalised 5 seconds for speeding in pit lane. Lewis Hamilton was 6th ahead of Charles Leclerc in another Ferrari. Australia's Oscar Piastri battled a braking issue and finished second last after yet another nightmarish weekend for McLaren. And closing us out tonight on In Pit Lane is Simon Astley. Come all the way from Tasmania, and you can find him at simonastley.com. You can also find him on Facebook at Simon Astley Official, on Spotify and all other digital platforms. Now, we will be back next week with another edition of In Pit Lane, as I said, with our special guest, Michael Clemente. But right now, here is Simon Astley and Jack. Good night.
I will tell you anything if you understand. I make believe I'm Superman. Hey, I'm Peter Pan. But I'm just feeling like nothing's ever right. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world. I will fly to Hollywood and live like a king. I'd own my own black limousine, that's where I'd begin. But I'm just feeling like nothing's ever right. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world. And I'll know right from wrong, grow up big and strong. I'll never say yes to strangers or go hitchhiking home. And I'll take holidays and walk every day. I smile 'cause I know I'm happy, there is no better way. I will run a marathon in world record time. I'll keep the pace and win the race, and we'll be just fine. But I'm just feeling like nothing's ever right. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world. And I'll know right from wrong, grow up big and strong. I'll never say yes to strangers or go hitchhiking home. And I'll take holidays and walk every day. I smile 'cause I know I'm happy, there is no better way. And there's no turning back, 'cause my name is Jack. In miracle ways, I tend to think I cry too much. Maybe I do. I will tell you anything if you understand. I'll make believe I'm Superman. Hey, I'm Peter Pan. But I'm just feeling like nothing's ever right. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world. I'm just a little boy in a bigger world.